Welcome to the HNPW session, Shared International Transport, A Route to Greater Impact. My name is Rebecca Lewin. I work with Hulo and I'll be your moderator for this session today. Great to see so many people joined already. I know we had a lot of interest for this event, as well as our other two events next week. So thank you very much for giving your time and participating in this session. We're looking forward to a really interactive session today. This is not a sit and listen or a presentation session. We really want to stimulate the debate, so please do engage and interact. I'm going to start with a few really interesting practicalities for the session. So first of all, if you could please ensure your microphone is muted. That should be automatic when you join the session, but please mute your microphone so that we can fully concentrate and listen to the speakers. Please engage. So if you have questions, please post them in the Q&A at the top. So you should see a Q&A tab about 4 along on the top of the Teams session. Please post your questions there at any point during the session. We have a really good portion of time towards the end of today's session for questions and discussion. And so we'd like to make that as rich as possible. We'll also be asking some poll questions using Mentimeter during the session. So you can either interact with that via your mobile device using the QR code, or otherwise you can just access that using the codes that will show on screen. It's just a simple code going to the Mentimeter website. We'll talk you through that. And of course, as is the norm these days, we are recording this session just so that we can make sure we capture all the discussions today and can share those more widely as well. Great. So firstly, I'm sure many of you are very familiar with Hulo. I see some names on the call who are extremely familiar with Hulo, but let me just take 2 minutes to introduce you to our organization. So what is Hulo? We are facilitating this discussion today. We are the first humanitarian logistics cooperative. As a cooperative, we bring together humanitarian organizations, both members of our cooperative and other organizations as well, to try and optimize logistics and supply chains. So this is everything from resource pooling, looking at market intelligence, different forms of joint initiatives, also digital solutions, different approaches for the humanitarian sector. And these are things which are coming from our member organizations. So it's not we're not bringing these ideas to the table, but rather co-piloting with our members and our participant organizations to try and deliver more impact in supply chain. Some of those things I've mentioned, joint initiatives, digital solutions. We also, of course, facilitate and aggregate international joint transport, which is one of the reasons that we're here to talk today and why we bring everybody together. We do a number of things in the business analytics and research space. So looking at research that can inform the sector and also looking at how we can be more data-driven in our decision making. And we facilitate different forms of community and networking events, such as that we're here today. So if we can progress, Erin, that would be great. Thank you so much. Our member organisations are shown there, and we're generously supported by DG ECHO and also by the French government, by the Centre de Crise et de Soutien. And we have currently 15, soon to be 16 members, but it's belying a little bit the range of activities which we do, where we have more than 100 organisations participating in the last year. We are present and support activities in these countries and also are delivering digital solutions to more countries around the world. So we're relatively small. We started just a few years ago, but our members are present in over 90 countries worldwide. Thank you, Erin. And we're not just about the members and the participants that we work with, but one of the reasons that we wanted to bring different actors together today is that it's really an ecosystem, and the way that we achieve optimization and greater efficiencies in this ecosystem is by working together. So we just want to acknowledge that this is a very small portion of those organizations represented in this panel discussion today. But a really broad and diverse ecosystem that we're grateful to work with and be a part of. So what I wanted to do then is to take a moment to mention a paper that you can access. This has just recently been published, A Call for Community. We are all facing uncertain times at the moment in light of the seismic shift in the sector in the last 2 months. And with that in mind, Hulo's cooperative members have put together a paper which explains a little bit some ideas for how to work closer together as a community. So please feel free to access this paper. There's a QR code on screen, and we will also share the link in a note after the call. And share your ideas, engage in the debate. We're keen to understand what your perspectives are around working together as a community. Now, I promised you some panelists, so let me introduce them. We have a really great panel today, a big panel today, with some great brains and experiences on this topic of joint international transport from across NGOs, commercial and donor communities. So thank you, panelists, for joining us today. I'm going to take a couple of moments now to introduce them. Felipe Costa is the Director of Logistics and Supply at Intersos, and he oversees the organization's international supply chain across 23 country offices. Felipe's worked very globally across Europe, Africa, the Middle East, Latin America. He holds an MBA in leadership and supply chain management and somehow finds time to lecture at a university as well. I really enjoy researching for panels like this because even when you think you know someone, when you research, you find out something new. So I have lots of questions for these panelists afterwards as well. Hania Tafet is the Head of Social Value Roadmap at Airbus and also the Managing Director of the Airbus Foundation. We're really pleased to have her on the panel today. Hania is a member of the Sustainability Leadership Team at Airbus and looks after developing the ambition, strategy, guidance on social topics. And those range from human rights, community impact, the foundation, sustainability, culture change, and employee engagement. So a really interesting range of topics there under her remit. Hania actually founded the first Airbus Community Impact CSR function that led to the launch of the strategy, tools and partnerships that we're all very familiar with now. And she's also set up the functional, divisional and regional networks to support the integration of sustainability into the business. She holds a master's degree in global governance and sustainable development and is clearly very passionate about this role of the role of business in social and sustainable development, both professionally and personally. So I was interested to read that she's carried this through her career experiences in journalism, communications, and corporate social responsibility. So thank you, Hania, for joining us today. Alexi Ottenberter is the coordinator of Hulo's global operations, and many of you, I'm sure, will know, and has been with Hulo since, in fact, before it became Hulo, before it was known in its current form. As an experienced and some might say seasoned humanitarian logistics professional and practitioner, he's worked across NGOs and also as a secondee to the logistics cluster. So Alexi oversees all of Hulo's global operations, including those in countries and the joint international transport initiatives, which we're here to discuss today. He's also joined on the call by his colleagues in the EU Hub team. So it's great to have the whole team represented today. There's even more, I'm not done. We have Stephanie Steggy, who's Vice President of Humanitarian Programs at Airlink. Stephanie has been with Airlink since 2013, and she leads a team of humanitarian experts that help NGOs to really transport aid cargo and passengers to emergencies around the world. In fact, in her first couple of years with Airlink, she helped to more than double the value they were delivering to their non-profit partners each year. So we're really excited to hear their ideas and their experiences today. Victor Onofray from the German Red Cross will be speaking about his experiences as a user of joint transport initiatives, what value, but also what challenges that's brought. And I think that's important to recognise today. We're not here to extol the values and the positives of joint transport initiatives. We also want to uncover what doesn't work, what's challenging, what are the barriers and what are some of the problems. We want to explore that together and see how we can try to overcome those as a community. I was really interested in researching around Victor's experience to see that he has a background in law and diplomacy, which made me think actually perhaps all humanitarians might benefit from being more effective in that space. So we look forward to learning from your experiences today. And last but not least, our closing remarks today will be delivered by Pierre Tripon from DG ECHO. With over 20 years experience in the sector, Pierre has a really diverse and far-reaching career as an NGO practitioner in various leadership roles around the world. with chapters in the commercial sector before joining DG ECHO in 2020. And with DG ECHO, he was responsible for co-developing the humanitarian logistics policy, which I'm sure many of you will be familiar with as a really defining moment, I would say, and a key driver for the greater strategic recognition of logistics and supply chain in the sector. He's then established the European Humanitarian Response Capacity, or the EHRC, which is now more commonly known as Relief EU. So panelists, thank you all very much for joining us today. We look forward to engaging with you during this session. We're going to start by engaging with everybody. So we would like to do a poll, and we're going to be using Mentimeter, as I mentioned. So Erin, if I could ask you to move to the next slide. Super. So either using your QR code or otherwise you can go to menti.com and enter that code on the left there, 53117494. And you should hopefully see the first question. So can we move to the next slide, Erin, and we'll start to see the live results coming through. Hopefully, always wait and see if technology is working for us. So have you used any international joint transport before? And the reason we want to ask about this is to kind of gauge who we're interacting with on the call today. So whether, yes, it's your primary choice, this is your go-to to use joint transport internationally. Maybe you use it, but it's your backup option. Maybe you're not so familiar with it, or there's actually no need for you to use this at the moment. So interesting to see the results coming through there. What we're going to do, we'll give you a minute to respond to that poll. And we're going to take a look at all of the poll results collectively a little bit later in the session as well. If you're having any challenges or problems engaging with the Mentimeter, please don't hesitate to pop a message either in the chat or in the Q&A, and then we can try and support you. But a good range of experience on the call. We can see a good range there, so that's helpful. It's also helpful for our panelists to know who they're interacting with and who they're speaking to today. So thank you for that. And so without further ado, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Felipe to share your experiences.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, and good morning to everyone and to the rest of the panel. I'm very happy to be here to share what is our experience on using international shared transport. Next slide, please. So a quick introduction on our organization for the ones that don't know it. Intersos is an international humanitarian organization that was founded in 1992 in Italy. We currently operate in 23 countries. We have around 3,800 staff. We deliver 1,100 million euros of humanitarian aid yearly through 280 projects, primarily intervening on protection and health and nutrition sectors. In 2023 alone, we reached 4.9 million people affected by crisis. And I was invited today to speak on how international shared transport is playing a key role on enhancing efficiency and impact of Intersos humanitarian operations. So I would like to start by speaking to you a bit about how it is set our international supply chain. Our international supply chain operations are fundamental to leverage the work of our humanitarian response. It is a centralized function in Intersos since 2020. We have a small team at HQ level managing it. It handles 50% of the medical supplies procurement worldwide. It also delivers a type of relief items, operational support equipment, donations. It manages a 1.2 million order pipeline yearly. 150 orders, around 800 cubic meters that represent 560 pallets. And it serves 18 missions, being the missions with most volume because of our significant health programming in those countries, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Yemen, Sudan, and Nigeria. 76% of our transport in value is done via air freight. Hence, we have the need to have a cost-efficient and reliable logistics solution on this end. So why do we use international shared transport? Mainly for three key reasons. The first one, and is very obvious, cost reduction. So every euro that we save on transport is redirected to humanitarian aid. The second one is access to hard-to-reach areas. In many crises, we lack reliable commercial international transport, and many times these shared solutions offer as an alternative when we can not reach it individually. Additionally, there is also the aspect of operational efficiency. By partnering with like-minded organizations, such as Hulo, that I will speak about, and Airlink, we enhance transport coordinations and reduce lead times. We are talking with organizations that act in the same space that we do. So it's easier, the interface, it's easier. So for these reasons, and as I anticipated in 2023, we started to work with Airlink and Hulo that have access to several shared transport mechanisms, the EU hub, one of them transport via the Airbus Foundation as well, Airlink with their partner network. And this translated in very clear and tangible impact in the organization. So next slide, please. How much did we save? So 41% of our, currently 41% of our international delivered goods are transported via shared, donated, discounted rates, transport services. Without these partnerships, our transport cost globally would be around 37% of the goods value that we ship to the missions. And if you see, Erin, next graph, please. Thank you very much. On the right side, it's the actual transport cost because we have a very big composition of air freight. We also deliver to countries where the freight rates are incredibly high and the operational aspect is quite complex. And with shared transport, we had a very clear impact on reducing this transport cost to 21.7% of the value of goods that we ship to the missions. This has a yearly saving, or it translates into a yearly saving of 250,000 euros that we reinvest purchasing additional medical supplies, or, for instance, reinforcing the medical teams in the field when we have the need. Just to give you a couple of examples on where we redirected the savings that we had. So, I mean, in the end of the day, these services are not merely about logistics. They are really about increasing humanitarian aid reach and impact. So, how easy is to engage in joint initiatives from our perspective? How do we do it? Next slide, please, Erin. So we procure goods internationally from different locations, Europe, Dubai, Nairobi. And when suppliers give us the final information on volume and weight of the cargo, after it is being picked and packed, we start scouting for transport opportunities. If there is a shared international transport opportunity via donation, a chartered flight, discounted rate, we use it. If there is not, we check commercial transport options. While I've mentioned the significant advantages of using this type of transport modality, engaging in joint initiatives, it's not without its challenges. So the first one that I would like to talk about is that we, NGOs, we have an unpredictable order pipeline for many reasons, sometimes for lack of planning as well, but it's difficult to plan shipments in advance. And this affects also the work that partners like Airlink and Hulo are doing in giving us solutions. So there is an issue in terms of visibility of the pipeline that we have. The second one, it's the opposite one. It's we also have lack visibility of shared transport opportunities. So there is here an issue of alignment between supply and demand of these services. Additionally, availability of cold chain transports is limited, which restricts what we can ship under joint initiatives. We also face some issues regarding different shipment requirements that reflect that sometimes we have to ask our suppliers to repalletize goods that were already prepared. And also partial deliveries. Sometimes the joint transport opportunity doesn't cover our full need, so we need to split the shipment in different smaller shipments, and this complicates a bit the order management and the inventory management at the destination point. Also, because we have multiple transport interfaces and reporting systems, there is increasing administrative complexity. It's easier to purchase services than to use joint initiatives because there are reporting requirements. There are some reporting requirements. So in my perspective, what is needed to improve joint transport, it's better real-time coordination amongst partners, improved information sharing systems, more flexible solutions for temperature controlled shipments, to try to find ways to lower the administrative burden, and to start exploring new transport modalities like sea freight, that I think it has a huge potential also to benefit the community. So just to conclude on our end, in Intersos, we really believe, next slide please, Erin. We really believe in the future of joint international transport as a key enabler of humanitarian aid. I've shown you a very clear example how it enables cost savings and operational efficiencies. I think that despite the challenges, this model has really a very good potential to scale up, but we need to work on improving the coordination, expanding the partnerships to access even to greater impact. So this was a bit of what is our experience at Intersos engaging with this type of service. I'm very happy to answer to any questions if needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Felipe. That's great. Maybe one question now. What would you say, you outlined some incredible financial benefits there. What would you say are maybe some of the non-financial benefits of participating in this kind of cooperation? Is there any additional value to you beyond the financial savings?
Yes, definitely. I mean, like I've mentioned, in terms of coordination and also information sharing, I mean, as Hulo Airlink, that we have been partnering also since 2023, we operate in the same space. So in terms of communication and sharing information of what is the actual context of the country that we have to move goods, what are the transport opportunities, what we need to take into consideration, there is a lot of fluidity. So it's less transactional like we have with our commercial partners, and it's more about collaborating together to make this operation happen. So I think this is one of the key aspects that makes this engaging in this type of transportation so beneficial for our organization.
Great. Thank you very much, Felipe. I'm going to promise or threaten to come back to you in the Q&A, depending on how you view it. And I come now to Hania Tavet from Airbus. Hania, what does this mean for you? What does joint international transport mean for the Airbus Foundation? Perhaps you can give us a flavor a bit around what the Airbus Foundation does in this space as well.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks, everybody. What a privilege to be here today. Special thanks to you, Rebecca, and the Hulo team for bringing us together around this critical discussion. But allow me, before I start, just to share something on my mind since morning. Today is the birthday of my twin nephews. They turned 14, and I was calling them in the morning. They live in Lebanon. And while on the call celebrating, it was a WhatsApp call, video call, I lost them. I lost the connection, which is very normal when you're calling Lebanon. And I had to wait a little bit, and then they reconnected. And that means that the regular energy coming in, the electricity went out, and they had to wait for the solar power or generators to kick in. And my brother and I were joking and that we're still in the same position for so many years, because he and I are the Civil War babies of the 70s. So this is what our life was about when it came to electricity and energy. But we've come a long way as well, nevertheless, by, for example, in the past, he and I would go down, take turns to get some gasoline from the station to ensure that the little generator is up and running when we lose electricity. We had to optimize and study on candle lights, to then having community leaders coming together, creating local solutions, supported by some organizations locally and internationally, to subscribe into big generators that provide electricity, to then today doing the same, but on solar power, because energy is not always, or petrol is not always available. So what's on my mind today is that we're always going to have vulnerability. We're always going to have people struggling to get through life in different ways. But at the same time, we have resilience, and we need to build resilience. And the story that I'm sharing today, it's just on my mind, is the resilience of my family and my community, and that they're still, and we're joking about it, that we created our own local solutions. So keep that in mind as I talk a little bit about what we're doing at the Airbus Foundation, because I'll circle back to the resilience point. At the Airbus Foundation, our mission has always been to provide products, solutions, technology, and expertise to the humanitarian responders, and also to use that expertise and technology to look at how we can tackle climate resilience, and also how can we inspire the youth and provide some quality education tools. And we do this through partnerships. We are very humble about it. We're not the emergency responders. We're not the ones that are the experts. And we value a lot our partners, and through them, we bring these expertise and products. And when I'm reflecting on the power of transport in the humanitarian response, Rebecca, back to your question, for us, transport is not just about speed, it's more about the impact that it creates through that speed. So when a disaster strikes, aviation plays a critical role. And we know that, we've seen it, we've witnessed it over the years, because it helps in reaching affected communities very swiftly and efficiently. And by aviation, I'm also including the helicopter sector, not just the aircraft and commercial sector. So Erin, if you don't mind moving on a little bit, just to show you some statistics. What triggered the establishment of the foundation in 2008 was being approached by various key emergency responding organizations, such as the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent, asking if we can provide our test aircrafts, because we do have a few test aircrafts on which we can upgrade technology, and we do a lot of test flights. So obviously that was a given, that we could do that if we can schedule, if we can have them available to schedule flights. And since then, you can see some of the figures there, but we've kind of supported more than 100 relief flights, and that includes using our test aircrafts, but also using our customer aircraft, especially when they're taking delivery from the final assembly lines. And we've coordinated a lot of flight hours for helicopters, which proves to be one key products, when we are responding in areas where it's difficult to reach. And also at the same time, we've provided satellite imagery to enhance the crisis response strategies that the response agencies need to plan. So humanitarian response is, for me, not a one-off intervention. It is strategic. And for it to be strategic, it needs to be well coordinated. I'm reflecting a lot on what Felipe was saying, but also inclusive, which means ensuring that all responders, not just a select few, can benefit from available cargo space and logistical capabilities. And here lies the challenge, or what we, at least where we sit, have seen that challenge or witnessed it over the years. So how do we make logistics work for everyone? Ensuring that transport capacity is used effectively and as much as possible, you know, to include as many players. Too often we experienced over the last few years that different organizations were working in silos, or which was leading to duplications and inefficiencies, if you allow me to say. And at the same time, which was a pity, and what we've seen it several times, it was underutilizing cargo space. So for me, that was, we've witnessed it for a long time. However, on the bright side, I'm starting to see a shift. My colleagues and I were reflecting on that, and we could see, like, in the last particularly 5 years, gradually we're starting to see a mindset, let's say, shift to address this. More and more organizations are coming together and creating that shift from individual response strategies to shared and collective approaches. And this is where partnerships ensure, or alliances ensure, that every available flight or even shipments benefiting multiple NGOs. And this is also why partnerships like the ones we have today, such as with Hulo, with Erling, with the global logistic clusters and many others, are proving to be critical, because they're kind of brokering a collective approach. And they're pooling resources, they're coordinating cargo space, aligning logistics efforts. And by that, hopefully we're gonna start seeing more and more maximization of impact, and, to be honest, reducing cost, because cost plays a major role there. And at least it ensures that we're all moving fast to support more people. So for those who know me, probably you've heard me ask over the last couple of years, one question to our partners: what's our exit strategy, especially when we're working with protracted crisis, or how are we making ourselves redundant? Again, referring particularly to long-term protracted crisis. In other words, what is beyond, you know, just the transport response? Where is the holistic logistics and transport strategy that is building that local resilience? And I come back to the local resilience, to the resilience point. So while aviation is a powerful tool, it is not a long-term solution. I personally believe that true impact comes when we combine emergency transport with local capacity building. And at the Abbas Foundation, we have been trying to focus on some of those areas by, for example, training local responders for medical personnel and medical personnel emergency responders on helicopter rescue missions. I've done almost, I think, more than 1,000 medical responders sessions. We're leveraging the technology of satellite and offering training and support and data analysis to help also in framing the local strategies and make it more efficient. And now we are trying to explore with the partners, with yourselves, many of you on the call, how we can create the local solutions. You know, like, we're working on, transport is always going to be needed. As I mentioned in my personal story, support is always going to, the vulnerability is going to be there always. But how do we also create a bit of local resilience and enable a little bit of a more lasting change? I know these are big words, but I hope my personal example in the beginning can give you a little bit of idea of, for me as a person and for many people, what lasting change could be. It's just creating independence, that like creating their own local solutions. So I leave you with a couple of closing remarks, let's say, from my side and from the Abbas Foundation. We are not, as I said earlier, first responders. We are enablers. We support very proudly organizations try to strengthen their work through our products and services and expertise and technology. But to truly maximize our impact, for us, it has been about strengthening alliances, and you are a proof of that. Some of you here, we've really been working with each other for quite some time, and that is bringing relief transport to beyond the few and making it a little bit more collective and inclusive. The second point is that we're investing, trying to see how we invest in shared logistics solutions to ensure efficient cargo space usage. So, for example, the new partnership that we have with Airlink is another step forward towards that. And at the moment, focusing on long-term resilience, like we're really asking that question, what goes beyond the logistics and supply chain requirements? How do we go local and create that independence and resilience? So thank you very much, and I'm really looking forward to our discussion today.
Thank you, Hania. And to get the discussion going, I've stolen your question and put it into the Q&A to start the discussion. So please engage. So Hania's question really, I think, is quite inspiring. What is our exit strategy from the dependence on international air transport, particularly in protracted crises? So you can see I've posted that in the chat, and please post your thoughts, your ideas, and let's get the debate going. Thank you, Hania. I'm going to promise to come back to you at the end as well for some more questions.
Thanks, Rebecca.
We come to our next speaker, to Stephanie Stegu from... No, we come to Alexi first. Sorry, that's my mistake. We come to Alexi Ottenvelter from Hulo. Alexi, over to you.
Hi, everybody. Very happy to be there to represent the team, my EUAB team that has been working a lot on flights for the past 5 years now. So very quick overview. Joining this panel, I think it's important that, so I will be focusing more on the EUAB and the Hulo coordination, but mostly on the EUAB program that has been running for the past 5 years now. So as you know, so this EUAB program has been started with the COVID-19 crisis, when organization, small to medium-sized organization, needed options, transport options for delivering, for ensuring the continuity of activities, humanitarian activities on the field. From a rapid onset emergency, we now living with a program that entering its 5th years of existence. And through the years, the EUAB has grown beyond its original scope, but also beyond the target we had or the expectation we had in terms of flights and support to organization. So this is a very quick reporting on what we've done for the past since 2020. So it's summing to 222 flights coordinated by Hulo. This is not the full picture of the EUAB program, but that's 222 flights organized, 18 countries delivered, mostly during the COVID. You will see that in more detail, we have some key countries that we are supporting for the past 2 or 3 years. And a lot of organization that has been supported through the years. I don't have the count here, but we are reaching more than 100 organizations that have been served. So that's just a quick picture, just to say that this is a program that has been, we can change to the next slide. Erin, please. Yes. So a few learning from this experience. We started really with nothing. 2 people in the room, 2 or 3 people in the room discussing how we can coordinate. and how we can set up with no tools, with nothing basically, except a few brains in a room, how we can build this coordinated mechanism regarding flight. So what we learn along the years, and it's that learning by doing was a key, has been key in the process. We're starting very small, very crafty, let's say, and we now growing and not becoming industrial program, but we are able to manage way more than before. The second big learnings that we had, facilitating and coordinating together with DG ECO this EUA program, was the network management. Since the beginning, we saw huge value in building and let's say building this network, engaging with actors, building the response with them. And now we can say that we have a strong community around us, with whom we shared a lot of initiative, new concept, new opportunities, etc. And they remain at the base of this program. A second point on the success, let's say, it's the agility. In 5 years' time, we managed to cover many different crises. COVID was one, very complex one. We tend to forget this one, but we also serve countries, war context, etc., etc. So we managed to maintain the same quality support for organization, depending on context. So everything was, we always find solution adapted to context for our partners and humanitarian organization working with us. A strong success also we believe that we managed to get in those 5 years is the coordination. You can imagine, of course, that the EUAB mechanism program is built with DG ECO, with Hulo, but also with freight forwarders, of course, with transport experts that are working with us. And it's tough. Coordination is tough, is complex, and require a lot of soft skills that we manage, I think, to build on and to ensuring the continuity of coordination throughout the years. The very good example is Jessica, that is our EUAB coordinator now. She's been there since the beginning in the COVID at another position, but we ensure the continuity of persons, but also of process. And so that was a great, a great learning for us. And the last one will be the innovation. Of course, the switch from Excel to a digital platform to organize flights has tremendously changed our capacity to deliver, our capacity to manage flights, more than one flight a week or 2 or 3 flights a week, in an easier manner than before. And we really believe that this innovation has been a key milestone in our evolution and in the evolution of the program. However, this quality and recognized services, I'm proud to say it, and happy to receive questions around that. But our quality and of the EUAB service and what Hulo is doing in this program is also the main changes is to keep it at this level, to remain consistent, to remain consistent and to evolve towards the new challenges we have as for today. As the other panelists has said, and especially Philippe, we need to look for new options. We need to respond to those, to this visibility, the flight visibility, the planning, etc. We need to work on that, and we need to work on that with our network. We also need to ensure the shortest time possible between the first flights organized and the emergency response. This has been in general quite well done, but this is for sure we can do more, and we can probably reduce our response time when a crisis hits. The continuity, of course, is a huge challenge for us in the long run. Maintaining the user satisfaction will give us also the key to build a better service for everybody. And this has been with introducing the transport platform, working on new context, with new rules, with more politics around regarding access to humanitarian fields, etc., has been a challenge. But we manage. We are looking very deeply into our user satisfaction. They are once again at the center of our program. And once again, innovation, of course, is a challenge because looking for new options, new synergies, improving our tools, being able to, for example, aggregate all the offers from Airbus Foundation, Airlink, Aviation Sans Frontières, or other actors in the sector, even the private sector, or UN, why not, demands a lot of investment, personal investment, human resources investment, as for the people that are facilitating and coordinating that, but also financial investments to build a tool that is, once again, has been built from the community for the service, and not, we did not create the tool from our ideas for the people. We build it with the people. I think this is the essence of Hulo, but this is also the essence of this now quite old program, humanitarian program. Next slide, Erin. A little precision on the process. That's a question that comes along quite often. The prioritization of our program has been evolving a lot throughout the years, especially since the COVID, where we were serving everybody. The time was to serve the majority of actors, whatever nationality, partnership, etc., etc., serving everybody for the greater goods during the COVID crisis. Then, of course, the program has changed. Crises have also evolved a lot, and a few priority has been put in place to ensure that the service remains qualitative for everybody and for the greater organization. So one thing that we will never change, it's the priority to the smaller organization. Of course, we're here to support organizations that will benefit the most of those free flights in the EUA program. So when they are here, they will be served in general firsthand. Then after, we had for response, for speed and for reactivity and to crisis, we have to prioritize sometimes cargo readiness when we want to be very quick on the response on the first flight. We have moved also from general cargo with low value, or let's say a medium value, to high value cargo. Today, the EUAB is mostly carrying medical items, drugs, etc., all over the world. Okay, and this has been proven quite efficient, especially for the drugs, the speed, and so prioritizing on that makes a lot of sense for the coordination team, but also for the actors, for the participating organization. Then after, in some times, that's the EUAB remain a DG program. Eco partner are sometimes prioritized, but not exclusively. That's to integrate the EUA program to fly with us. Let's say you don't need to be eco partners, but in sometimes, we should decide, we should take decision, and eco partners could be, in some contexts, prioritized towards others. The thing is that the final decision remains always in DJ ECO hands, okay, as the country we serve with the EUAP program. Yes, Hulo as part of the coordination team, we can propose countries, we can look at anticipating a few things and push for some countries where we see a needs rising. However, DJ ECO will be the last decision maker on that. Next one, please. So in terms of future and how that's how we see it at Hulo. Bringing all of you together for this panel was also to try to launch a few ideas for the futures, for how can we manage in the future. One key things we believe at Hulo and with the EUAB mechanism is connecting offers. The build of the transport by Hulo platform is also is an opportunity. We foresee an opportunity there to connect the offers of various foundation like Airbus or Airlink, etc. The thing is, we're already using the Transport by Hulo platform to organize Airbus Foundation flights that we also operate on the site. And we are very happy to look and to investigate in how we can bring more in this platform. For visibility reason, for Philippe, for Intersos to be able to see the global offer of flights that we can provide that are on the market, and then after operate it in a very coordinated way. The second thing is expanding our geographical reach. For the time being, we respond to emergencies, but we know that air transport are also needed and are key for humanitarian operations in countries that are not facing rapid onset crisis. Okay, we've been looking at going in other countries, and we're doing it with Airbus Foundation, for example, where we can do on the partially cost recovery flights. Okay. We can already access new countries, and we can have a greater scale and greater reach for our partners. So through cost recovery is not a big word. It's just to say that with this we have to be able also to get out of free of charge of partial of funded options and try to see how we can. Because we create this network, because we are a like-minded organization, and because we have tested work in a joint way, how we can look for cost recovery shared flight in the future. And of course, exploring alternative transport modalities is something that we need to tackle quite quickly. Already within the EUAB process, we are working on the road transport. We are starting it. We need to frame it. We need to better define it, but this is already something going on. And it's very similar. We can for sure, and I'm convinced that we can always bring this coordination, this joint effort we did with flights. We can also do it with road assets and sea assets. That's for sure. So yeah, as I was saying, we are already working on that. Always with this amazing tool that we have been building for 3 years now. That is the Transport by Hulo platform, and we are very happy to look with all of you, Airlink, Airbus Foundation, and others to how to better frame this future together.
Thank you, Alexi.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's really interesting to share, and good to see that it hasn't been a smooth road. There's been some problems along the way. There's been some learning by doing. I think it's a really interesting place that we can try and expand from as well. So we'll explore that a little bit more in the Q&A to come. Now I am coming to Stephanie, having made that error before. Stephanie, over to you. I'm really interested to hear about Airlink's perspectives on some of these challenges.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca, for having me. Obviously, shared transport is really salient to what we do at Airlink because we view ourselves as a solution for the community. As Felipe said, we work with InterSOS, we work with lots of organizations around the world to do this, and especially in the face of the recent funding cuts around the world. So Aaron, if we can go to the next slide, I will just give a very brief overview of what Airlink is and what we do. For those who don't know us, we are a US-based nonprofit, but we work globally with more than 258 partners around the world, ranging from the very small, less than $100,000 a year in annual revenue, all the way up to UN agencies. We also work with 50 airline partners around the world to deliver aid cargo and skilled personnel to areas affected by both rapid onset and protracted humanitarian crises. We were created by the aviation flight industry, and they had an understanding that the airlines around the world, commercial airlines, were flying their day-to-day flights partially empty. That space they felt could then be used to help NGOs transport aid globally for free. So today we work by leveraging existing capacity, both the excess and what we call positive space, that space you book and displace revenue cargo, using commercial airlines flights to transport aid and responders for free. In addition to that, we also do facilitate multi-agency charter flights when commercial airlift isn't present. Airports are closed. It's difficult to access that in-country transport. So in short, we're working with those commercial aviation actors to do what they do every day, but for good. So when NGOs are coming to us after an emergency, they're often asking us, when's your next flight? We're able to say, more or less, as soon as your cargo is ready and we have an airplane that's ready to go in, because we're able to leverage that positive space on commercial flights, and because we're demand led and we have to sort of remain flexible to the needs that our partners are presenting. We process about 300 requests annually, and over the last 15 years of our operation, we've reached 103 countries, helped offset more than $42 million in transportation costs, and delivered more than 6,600 tons of aid supplies around the world, as well as about 13,000 responders. Next slide, please. So why do we do all this? We've built this free to user service for the humanitarian sector because more than 70% of humanitarian funding is spent in the supply chain. And that obviously covers everything from procurement to distribution, but transportation is one of the most volatile components. I'd argue it's the most volatile component because of the way that emergencies affect air transport. We see time and time again that providing free transport for products and for expertise that's not locally available ensures that NGOs can spend the maximum amount of funds on in-country programs. And more we're hearing the support of Airlink and the commercial aviation sector, actors like Hulo and the Airbus Foundation, mean that NGOs don't have to make the choice between canceling a procurement or dipping into unrestricted funds to send it. Understanding we are short on time here, I want to talk about a case study where I think shared transport is going to be the key to sustainable response, on the next slide. And that is our Sudan crisis response. So this is a little map of all of the ways that we are getting into Sudan, all of the ways that we're seeing NGOs getting into Sudan, and a little bit of our impact there. Obviously, transportation for this response is costly and complex. And at the same time, a lack of funding to get aid to the country, as well as to South Sudan, Central African Republic, and Chad, is standing in the way of NGOs reaching hundreds of thousands of civilians. So Airlink's had a fair amount of success in delivering aid to Sudan and the surrounding countries over the last 2 years. As you can see, flying in from North America, from Europe, from Dubai, from Nairobi, and then utilizing regional hubs to fly or truck aid in and ultimately reach those hard to reach places. This program has actually accelerated dramatically with the opening of the Audrey border. So I will shout out Airbus Foundation here. In September of 2024, we worked with them to launch a chartered 747 freighter from Dubai to N'Djamena, Chad. That was to meet the needs that were raised by the Global Logistics Cluster and their members. That flight carried 85 tons of life-saving supplies from 3 UN agencies, and that included NFIs, pharmaceuticals, MSUs. Our contribution there ultimately ended in Chad for that flight, but it effectively cleared the most costly hurdle for aid agencies to deliver aid, and that was that long-haul flight. Earlier this year, though, we were really pleased to be able to replicate and extend that operation across the border. We were proud to work with Intersos, Action Meteor, Shelterbox, and again, the Airbus Foundation, thank you very much, to mobilize 23 tons of aid and then handle the end-to-end logistics for the project. So we moved 2 tons of temperature-controlled medical supplies and pharmaceuticals from Action Meteor in Germany, 18 tons of shelter and non-food items from Dubai, consolidated those in Chad with additional supplies that Intersos had in N'Djamena. We loaded those onto 5 trucks, including 1 temperature-controlled truck, and transferred everything across the border to Al Junaida and West Darfur, Chad, or Sudan, excuse me. As many of you know, temperature-controlled trekking into West Darfur is very difficult. There's a risk of pillaging of trucks that are carrying those essential medicines. But we worked with a trusted logistics partner, and we were able to identify those cross-border temperature-controlled trucking options. Those 23 tons of humanitarian aid traveled for 11 days across the country. It's 940 kilometers. There were just poor infrastructure, generally unpaved roads. The temperature-controlled truck needed a radiator about 12 kilometers from the border. So that was driven out across the country, replaced. Another truck broke down just 4 kilometers from the border. This was Murphy's Law in action. During this entire period, Airlink supported Intersos to identify the necessary approvals and permits that were required for entry into Sudan. Intersos was able to get all of those permissions with Sarho. And on February 12th, the last of the 5 trucks, which had to double back and come back, was delivered to Intersos in Al Junaida. This was a humongous feat. I was watching this happen every day, you know, just a new problem every single day, but we did it. And I think that stories like these are why shared transport is important, because whether we're utilizing donated air freight or using donor dollars to make that lift possible, using every cubic meter, every pallet position, slotting pallets into excess capacity on a truck or on a flight, I think that's the thing that's most important in making airlift effective, and we're able to do that through partnerships like this one. We hope to be able to do that many more times over the course of this response this year. So next slide, please. This is not without its challenges, as I said. In rapid onset emergencies, NGOs are moving really quickly to get aid in. They're saying, when can we get this flight out? When can we get into the country? And when we're organizing a multi-agency charter, we're having to manage multiple cargo ready dates, aligning them with the availability of an aircraft and the time it might take for the cargo to get from a warehouse to the airhead, whether that's, you know, in another country in Europe, a state across the United States, or right down the block at a UNHRD. And on top of that, the visibility of upstream demand. I think, Felipe, you said this, it can be quite opaque. So NGOs are, you know, looking at how they can procure based on the right funding in the right places, whether those products are in stock, that sort of thing. And they might not be able to actually communicate that to a transport fighter like Hulo, DG Echo, Airlink. Obviously, the outcomes of all of those shipments are suddenly intertwined. If one shipment's tendered with undeclared dangerous goods, without the appropriate packaging or wrapping, it can delay an entire flight for multiple organizations, or else it can cause a flight to go less than full. It also takes work to make sure all those parties are aligned. So for the Sudan shipment I mentioned, that email chain had no less than 17 people in copy as we coordinated the flights, the warehousing, the truck loading, the cross-border permissions, the delivery. And I think it's also worth noting, the more actors you have on a project, the more challenging it can be to effectively communicate the impact. That's something that, you know, we're all humanitarian practitioners. We all want to be in the doing, but we also have to tell the story of what we're doing so we can continue to do that. So for instance, determining what you can say about a shipment or a project, when you can say it, sometimes for the sake of safety and security, who needs to be included in that. And in the case of our Sudan shipment, I think it's safe to say, Felipe, that we effectively managed that. I think we have some communications going out, but that was thanks to a lot of pre-planning and communication ahead of time. We've been working on this for months, this partnership for months. So I think I'll wrap up with challenges there. But all the challenges notwithstanding, I really feel personally, and I think we feel at Airlink, this model is helping organizations scale up to be able to do more. And I think as we work more closely, more complementarily with other transport providers like Hulo, like the GLC, across all modalities, sea freight, road, warehousing, I think we can help make these transport solutions more accessible and more effective. So
thank you so much, Stephanie. Really interesting case study there to look at as well. It sounds like everything went wrong that could have gone wrong in that example. But sometimes that's where we get the most learning, isn't it? So so great to share. Thank you very much. Right, I'm just going to check that everybody's still with us on the call now by doing a quick poll. So Erin, if you could move back to the Menti, it's the same QR that you had before, and the code is at the top there. So you've heard some of your speakers today already illustrate some of the barriers to sharing international transport, but what do you think? What do you think are some of the main barriers to sharing international transport? You can go into the Menti and you should be able to select as many as you like from the list that we've provided there. Maybe you think there's a different barrier, and put that into the Q&A, please. We really want to hear from you today. And we'll be sharing the results after the session today. So whilst we're waiting for those results to come through, I'm going to rapidly move on to our next speaker, to Victor from the German Red Cross. And Victor, I know you're looking at the time and seeing that we're a bit short, so grateful if you can save a bit of time in your session. That would be really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello everyone, and many thanks to firstly to the Hulo team for inviting GRC to take part in this event. My presentation aims actually to provide an analysis of the cooperation between the German Red Cross and Hulo, specifically regarding the transportation of humanitarian cargo to conflict regions, with a particular emphasis on the Middle East. The analysis is presented from GRC's perspective as a beneficiary of the Hulo-supported EU humanitarian air bridge program. The focus will be on how Hulo has been instrumental in enhancing GRC's logistics capabilities, as well as the key benefits and challenges GRC encounters while utilizing Hulo's services for humanitarian and aid delivery. Next slide, please. Then the German Red Cross is a humanitarian organization with the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement. The GRC is dedicated to delivering essential humanitarian aid across the globe, particularly in emergency situations resulting from conflict, natural disasters, and health crises. GRC is not only involved in providing immediate relief, but also in coordinating efforts with other national society on the field, including through the IFRC, ICRC, and other humanitarian partners. The organization as well plays a critical role in delivering medical aid, water, shelter, NFI, different logistical support, all essential in conflict areas where regular supply chains are disrupted. And a major challenge in this humanitarian logistics is ensuring timely and reliable delivery of critical supplies in infected region. And I would say this is where Hulo comes in. The next slide. And Hulo plays a crucial role in facilitating the delivery of humanitarian cargo through the European Commission Airbridge program by enabling humanitarian organizations to share air transport capacity. Hulo significantly reduces logistical costs and enhances operational efficiency. Hulo's functions also involve fostering collaboration and improving efficiency within the humanitarian logistics network. Through its digital platform, Hulo streamlines logistics processes and enhances coordination among various stakeholders. The EU humanitarian aid bridge is particularly vital for reaching regions affected by conflict or those with limited access, where traditional supply chains are often very, very difficult. Next slide. Then here I would just mention some advantages and challenges in utilizing Hulo's logistics support from GRC perspective very shortly. Then advantages is efficient logistic support. Hulo's assistance has been indispensable in transporting humanitarian supplies to the affected regions, and we have experienced it last year. The cooperation has been efficient, flexible, reliable, ensuring that all necessary logistical processes are handled smoothly and with clear and structured coordination. Working with Hulo, GRC has been able to diversify its logistic processes, creating new pathways for the transport of humanitarian cargo, and that is very important. This was particularly significant in the MENA region, where GRC has been able to expand its network and establish more robust partnership with other humanitarian organizations. Cost-effective and free transport services, for sure. One of the most valuable aspects of GRC's collaboration with Hulo is that these joint transport flights organized by Hulo and its partners are provided free of charge. This arrangement allows GRC to maximize the use of donor funds, as the cost savings can be reinvested into other critical areas of the operation, ultimately increasing the overall transport capacity of GRC. As challenges, very shortly, it's a cargo splitting. It's a big issue for us. A significant, when cargo is divided and transported through different channels, such as Hulo and other commercial carriers, the complexity here lies in the efficient consolidation of the partial deliveries upon arrival at the destination. And this requires careful coordination to synchronize various transport routes, ensure the timely arrival of all shipments, and manage the seamless integration of diverse cargo lots. Another challenge is accurately predicting transport time frames, especially when working with shared transport model involving numerous stakeholders. The success of this kind of logistic operation is also contingent on having strong field partnership in the countries where the cargo is delivered. Without effective coordination and partnership at the local level, the transport can face significant obstacles, and particularly in conflict areas. Next slide. Then in 24, then we have the GRC leverage Hulo's services in transporting to Egypt, Jordan for Gaza humanitarian response, and Lebanon and a variety of essential humanitarian aid. The following graph provides an overview, a general overview of the total transport operation organized by GRC alongside the portion of transport facilitated through cooperation with Hulo. And then what we see, 31 general transport operation organized by GRC. This is in affected areas and in countries as part of the long-term partnership projects. And with transport with assistance with air bridge, we have 11 flights, a total value of transported humanitarian aid approximately 1.5 million euros, a total weight 230 tons. It is evident from this graph that the air bridge cargo facilitated by Hulo was significant for GRC's cooperation last year. The last one, the last slide, then in conclusion, the cooperation between the German Red Cross and Hulo has played an instrumental role for sure in enhancing the efficiency of our logistics operation, especially in conflict regions. And despite some challenges in coordinating complex transport operation, the advantages as the of cost-effective, timely delivering, and flexibility offered by Hulo far outweigh these challenges. The collaboration with Hulo remains also for future a key element in strengthening GRC's logistics framework and expanding our ability to provide aid in the most vulnerable regions. I hope I was short enough. Thank you for your attention, and feel free to contact us if you have any questions.
Victor, thank you very much. It's always hardest being the one of the last panelists in such a full panel, but some really interesting experiences there. It sounds like you had overall quite a positive experience, so thank you for that. It was quite yeah, nice and unexpected to hear some positive feedback there, so thank you. Also some challenges coming through, which is great. I'd like now to discuss some of those challenges with the panel before coming to our closing remarks. And if you do have any questions you would like to ask the panel, please do post them in Q&A. We are monitoring them, replying to some directly, and then bringing some up to panel. So one of the things one of the questions maybe I'd like to come to first, Felipe, I'm coming back to you. There was a question around equity and inclusion, making sure that access is really equitable for these joint initiatives and shared international transport. How do we ensure that, do you think? How do we make sure that there is an equitable access across these kind of initiatives? A nice easy question to start, Felipe.
Yes, thank you, Rebecca, for that one. I think, I mean, first of all, speaking from the side of a medium-sized organization, I think it's obvious that we have been benefiting, and that these transport opportunities definitely leverage our capability to expand our programs, to find supplies that normally we don't have available in the local market. So, I mean, there was a direct impact in terms of what was our outreach. Then in terms of giving access to our other organizations, and specifically national NGOs, I think it's just to continue to build upon what we have on the network that we have built here, and making sure that this information is shared, that at country level, we make these national NGOs aware that they can use this mechanism. Sometimes they don't have the logistical capacity, but I mean, there can be partnerships at local level where international NGOs provide this capacity. They provide the interface with Hulo, with their link, etc. That doesn't have to be necessarily a direct interface. So, I mean, I think we can work on that, and there is a huge potential to work on that, because sometimes the difficulties is not only accessing international transport, it's also accessing markets where they can purchase these items or eventual donations, etc. And we can support on brokering that, on finding possibilities, on supporting, on having sometimes there are some very practical constraints, such as, you know, purchasing from a humanitarian procurement center. You need to have some sort of a financial background that would allow you to have access to a credit line. That so we can support on those aspects, and I think there's definitely ways.
And that's what partnership is, isn't it? I guess is finding the right partnerships. It sounds like, you know, in an oversimplified way, we would think about joint international transport, that primarily the challenges would be in the international space, but actually it's through the chain. That's what we're hearing, that there's a need for partnerships and collaboration throughout. Thank you. Hania, you challenged us and pushed us into the future in your discussion. I wonder if I can ask you then, what would be your vision for how this looks in a few years' time? Where do you think we should be as a sector in leveraging these opportunities of shared international transport, but maybe also reducing that dependency, as you mentioned?
Sorry, just getting off the mute. My vision, personally speaking, is that if we look at the future, we can see more local supply chains that are resilient. So, for example, if I put the corporate head on and speak to our procurement colleagues, you will have colleagues and functions specialized in scouting for suppliers and running supplier development programs so that we can de-risk our supply chain, we can diversify it, And this includes vulnerable communities, like at large, because we operate everywhere, and we have issues and vulnerability everywhere when it comes to the corporate supply chain. So for me, that's what I would like to see put forward, is like, how can you, as a logistics enabler and transport enabler, really part of the strategy, the holistic strategy, include a supplier development program that is shared with everybody, that everybody's looking into, that as everybody's partnering in, and creating the right governance around it. So that's one thing. The other thing to add is, like you talked about, you're all talking about the transport, the collective transport, the visibility so that everybody can have access to it, and so on. Maybe adding into that as well in the future, in our future thinking, even if you are operating as logistics and transport, but adding the partners that are not in logistics and transports, partners that are at the receiving end, creating resilience. Like how do we push and support to create resilience, so that, for example, certain topics can be handled locally. One thing I always see, that in certain disasters that reoccur every year, especially related to natural disasters, we see like the same kind of goods going and being transported. Some of it related to food security. So can we work on technology, smart farming, building resilience when it comes to agriculture? That's just an example. For now, there are organizations doing that, and there is the transport organizations. The two, in my opinion, are not talking to each other. This is how I see it.
Yeah.
I say that with a lot of humility. So please forgive me if you don't agree, but we're always getting educated by all of you, and you know better. It's just like from an outside view, this is
It's
how we
never an
see it.
interesting discussion if everybody agrees. Don't worry, it's much more interesting if we don't. I think and that's super interesting perspective there, because we'll always have a need for international transport by air in humanitarian response. But how can we work on supply chain resilience, on supply chain strength, working with the supplier markets to reduce it to be as international as necessary, and rather than by default. Super interesting. Thank you. I see we have some great questions there in the chat, which are thanks for the team who've been responding to that. Please check out the responses there. Of course, we've talked about savings, financial savings by combining international transport, but there's also carbon savings to be had and emission savings, so really interesting perspectives there. And also some questions about how partners are selected and the processes, the tendering processes and so forth. I'm going to come now to Pierre, slightly later than planned. Sorry, Pierre, but I'll give you the final words for the session, and I'll just come back at the end to thank the panel. So Pierre, over to you, and we have integrated your slide that you requested as well. So please go ahead.
Thank you very much. So yeah, thanks for putting that up. Just as I would say as a reminder, as Alexis mentioned also before, the DG ECO has been involved with Hulo since the COVID era. That was back then called Réseau Logistique Humanitaire, RLH, for those who were already following that back then, and obviously, so that started in 2020. And it was with the passengers, passenger transport. We were not talking about really not yet that much about cargo, but it came obviously fairly quickly as a main subject of our, I would say, of our work. That being said, at ECO, as you can see that on those statistics on this Power BI, you can see that we are moving a lot of passengers because we have a dedicated program made for humanitarian passengers transport, currently operating in Burkina Faso and in DRC, and this is something that we apply in different countries whenever there's a need, a crisis that can be long term, as we do currently in these two countries. We used to do it before in Mali, but we can also implement that in other countries whenever there's a crisis. We did it, for example, last year in Chad or in Somalia, or we did it in the past also in Madagascar for a couple of seasons, rainy seasons. So this is something also another pooling resources system that we use. I'm also glad to see here during the different conversation or presentation that we've been having that other organization or foundation, and I'm talking here about Airbus, using the I would say that tool. When I use the term of tool, I'm talking about Hulo and their platform. Something that we've been working on for quite some time, and to set it up for our own EU hub use to start with. And then quickly we realized that that could be a very nice tool to be shared with other organizations and I mean in the humanitarian sector as a whole. And we still have discussions ongoing to actually further develop that aspect of this tool. And I think this is very positive, and it goes in the right direction that was taken, I would say, a couple of years ago, back in 2021, when ECHO decided to really invest into logistics. This is a bit where I joined actually the ECHO back then as a logistician with some field background, and that's how was the logistic policy developed and shared amongst the community back then. And in parallel, we created the EHRC, so the European Humanitarian Response Capacities, that we now called Relief EU. And so that's the tool that encompasses many different aspects of this pooling of resources. There's a financial aspect of it, and where some colleagues are actually putting out some fundings for emergency responses. And on our side, we started with the logistics aspect, with the cargo transport, with the passenger transport, and we added to this expertise with logisticians, and we also have now health responses in coordination with the ECDC, so the European Center for Disease Control. And we also added to that aspect the preposition stocks that we have started to develop with the colleagues from WFP, UNHRD in their different depots around the world, and we expanded that activity also as it gained a lot of success and showed and got a lot of traction and interest from the partners, and it's been used quite widely in a different recent crisis. So we expanded that to new partners with UNICEF and IOM for you to know. So these are the different aspects, and I would say that another aspect also that I noticed, and especially during the first poll that you displayed, was the fact that still maybe not a majority, but a fair amount of people still ignore or are not well aware of how this international shared transport can be tapped in or organized, how they gain access to it. So obviously, it shows us that we still need to promote that aspect of our activities along with Hulo and ourselves, but also I'm thinking here about Airlink or the Airbus Foundation, also providers of such shared transport. Obviously, we want this and we want this Hulo platform to be widely used and at the core front of these responses and this access. I hope that all the people who are now today with us will be able to join that movement and call on to Hulo to actually join future operation. As it was said before, it's widely open to everyone. I would just put a small, maybe not a correction, but yeah, to what Alexis said. We do not specifically give priority to our partners. These operations, these EU hub operations, these are really made to open access and give this opportunity to transport cargo for any organizations, part of the, I would say, the humanitarian community. We mostly look at high value cargo, say, for example, the medical cargo. And I would say that between an unknown or a non-partner, a non-eco partner organization willing to send high-value medical cargo to a destination, compared with, I would say, regular, say, for example, I don't know, NFI's shelter cargo, where it might not be as much needed from a partner, we would definitely support the one with a high-value cargo, medical one, just as an example. So rest assured on this, everybody is welcome into this as long as it's a humanitarian organization, not profit one. That's the things that we are looking at. And I would say that, well, and I will conclude on this because I will not go into too many details, and I know that we are time constrained. I would say that I'm very pleased on the evolution of Hulo, the fact that it expanded, and it's now, I would say, something that we somehow initiated also within our logistic policy and promoted across many different fora and everything. That this is now becoming something big, real, with a lot of attention. And I would say that obviously with today's international political situation and its consequences on humanitarian fundings, that underlines at how critical this is for us to change the way we've all been working for many, many years, I would say even decades, where we were all, separated and in silos, doing our own logistics, our own supply, our own everything. I think now it's a question of being able to wisely use every single euro or dollars we have. Resources pooling is not an option anymore. That's the way to go in order to raise our efficiency level. And we at ECHO are really focusing on this strategy, hoping to embark the humanitarian community on that path. That's a very the key message for us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for those that call to action and those stimulating remarks to close the session. I really want to thank all of the panelists today. I'm conscious we're running a couple of minutes over, but it was a very rich discussion, so perhaps you'll allow me 1 minute to close. Thank you also to everybody who's participated in the session today, participated in the polls. We'll be circulating the results afterwards as well in a short write-up from today's session. And if you would like to engage further, there's an email address on screen. What I take from today's session, partnerships take time. It's clear that we've had a lot of learning between those actors who've engaged today, but also others who are joining and participating into joint transport initiatives around the world. It's not just about those that have been presented today. There's a huge diversity of activities out there and learning that we can draw on. I hear the importance of visibility, of planning, the role of digital solutions in enabling these. I'm so glad that we've moved away from Excel sheets into a more sophisticated platform and that we're evolving a little bit, dragging our heels into that 21st century place. And of course, that there are significant savings to be made. And that's maybe the message we need to take today, that we all are in a position where we need to try and find those savings. So let's find them in the obvious places. Let's make the obvious possible, and let's not try and dig them out of places that we'll regret. I'm going to steal from Hania to close, because it was such a nice statement to make, that we will always have vulnerabilities. But we need to build resilience, and I have a feeling that we can build resilience more effectively together than one by one. So I really hope this is the start of a discussion and a continuation of an expansion of joint transport initiatives as a way to help us all to deliver more impact to those who are really in need. Thank you very much to all of our panelists today, and thank you to the participants. And we will continue to be in touch with you after this session today. So thank you and goodbye.